Franchise Secrets, Erik Von Horn.
Hey, in this episode of Franchise Secrets, I have Tara McLain on, a franchisee with Hand and Stone. She owns 5 locations and she bought 2 of them just before COVID. And so we get into the struggles that she has. She was a young mother who decided to get into franchising and has built quite an empire there. So we talk about what's it like being a mom in business and all the things that come along with that. And there's some really cool things, conversations that she's had with her daughter, who is now in college, around being that entrepreneur. So we got into the struggles of COVID, the struggles buying a location where surprises happened because it was an existing location, but there's some surprises that didn't go well. This is a really good conversation. I hope you enjoy this podcast. All right, Tara, I've been looking forward to having you on the podcast. I know that you've been with Hand and Stone for a while now, and you just have a cool story. I mean, you are in franchising, you have about 5 locations. Your husband, John McLain, is an attorney. And so I think you're kind of, built this brand on your own. Is that an accurate statement?
That is true. However, he's a great support system. I certainly could not do it without him to bounce ideas off of and have him listen to my sob stories, when days are not good.
It hasn't all been perfect.
Oh, how I wish.
Let's go back. Let's go back to the beginning when you first got into it. Why Hand and Stone? Did you grow up in an entrepreneurial family? Did you want to be an entrepreneur? Take us back.
I've done a lot of entrepreneurial things. I did not grow up in a family that did their own thing. My first franchise was with a concept called Budget Blinds out of Southern California, and that's what brought me to Central Florida.
Were you a franchisee with Budget Blinds?
I was. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So many years ago, we brought the store the purple van to Central Florida. And I knocked on doors and sold window coverings to a lot of people for about 2.5 or 3 years. And then I sold that entity and raised a family for a few years. And then I was a member at the local Hand and Stone in my neighborhood. And I had been looking for something to do. And John said, well, why don't you inquire?
So you were a franchisee, Budget Blinds. You sold that because you have two kids, right? And they're one's in high school now and one's in college. Is that right?
Yep.
And so you were a franchisee. Now, what did you learn when you were looking at your second concept from your first concept? Because there's a lot of people out there that own a concept now and they're like, it's not everything that I wanted it to be. Or they might think if it's Budget Blinds, I want something that I can maybe hire more people for, or something that I enjoy doing more. Because Budget Blinds it's a great company. It's been around for a long time. I know some of their franchisees, they do very well and they've built big businesses, but not all Budget Blinds franchisees have built big businesses. So what was it that attracted you to Hand and Stone versus that service-based Budget Blinds?
I didn't want to sell services door to door anymore. I mean, that's a really hard job, right? I mean, and you always have to have recurring new clients. You do with Hand and Stone too, but it's different. And I have always enjoyed the spa world, the services that you can get in a spa. I definitely was a very great consumer. I was a great customer of theirs long before I purchased into the brand. And so that's the reason.
And that's an important thing because you got to know what kind of business you're getting into. If you're in a service base, any kind of service base with a truck, a van, a man in a van, you are selling. The good thing about those is you are not putting up a ton of capital. You are not risking a bunch of money, but you are always hunting for new customers. And then you go into something like fitness or in the beauty space where it's a significant build out. It's not a cheap build out for any of these types of concepts. And you're locked into a longer term lease. And there's more financial risk with that, but you can build reoccurring revenue that is sustainable, and you're still getting new customers and different things like that, but you're keeping current customers happy and always acquiring new ones. So that's kind of what was attractive to you. Plus you enjoyed it, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I was their customer. So if I can enjoy their customer, I can be their customer and enjoy their services. I think I can do that type of business. And at the time the kids were in elementary school. So I had been investigating many, many different concepts, and Hand and Stone spoke to me again because I was a consumer and I liked the brand. I liked the look. I liked at the time I didn't know they were all service providers or estheticians or massage therapists. I didn't know all of the things, but I certainly liked I liked the look and the feel, and the investment was a lot. However, it was it made sense. Just the numbers made sense to buy into the Hand and Stone family.
So go back to that time, a mom with a couple kids. How much did that, what was, some people want to go get a job, others just want to stay home. Go back to that time mindset. What was weighing in your mind during that time as a mom with two kids?
I mean, I've always been pretty independent. I've always wanted to be able to, always take care of myself, always support myself. And I think that was just important. And Hand and Stone allowed me that flexibility to still be a mom, still be a wife, still be present in their lives, but allowed me to create something that was my own.
What do you think about your kids now? What would they say about their mom, knowing that mom's a successful entrepreneur? What did they learn? What did they glean from that? What would they say?
They would say that I'm crazy.
That's true.
I think they're proud of me. I think they're proud of the hard work that I've done. My daughter is in college and, she's now thinking about, well, maybe I want to have a business, maybe now I don't want to go work for somebody else. Would you give me one of your businesses? And I'm like, it doesn't really work that way, but those are the conversations that, that she's now thinking about, maybe not wanting to work for someone else and really wanting to put herself out there to have other opportunities when she's done with school.
That's awesome. What's she studying now?
Her first year as a freshman at UCF, she was studying computer engineering. And now she's a smart girl. And now she's changed her major to finance, and with a minor in computer science.
Good. I like that finance degree. I was a very, very much a C student, but finance, I got an A in finance, but everything else, I was like a straight C student. But yeah, that's if I was to go back, I would probably get a finance degree versus just a normal business degree. All right. So give us an idea of the infrastructure. You got 5 locations. How far apart are they, and what does your team look like? So
the first store that we built was 2 hours and 15 minutes from home. I'm actually in that store today. It was the only spot at the time that Hand and Stone was developing. It was the only market that Hand and Stone was developing. As far as there have been since then many locations built that are closer to home, not in my backyard, but closer to home. So I built in a market where I didn't know anyone. I had no connections. I have no family. I had no friends and family weekend because I'm not from here. And so I think having the model and me always being so far away allowed me to hire really strong people, really strong managers to start off with.
Do you have any of the same employees that you had when you first started? I mean, when I was in there, when I was in, I mean, that's a long time, 10 years. I'm just curious, if any of them are still with you.
Some massage therapists are still with us. Our manager currently has been with us for 5 years, probably in this store. Let's see. And then, maybe even longer. Maybe even Brittany's been here 6 years. And as far as front desk staff, no, that's a constant turnover. It's been extremely, extremely, extremely hard. I can't even tell you how hard since COVID. So, that's a whole other thing that you can talk about later, I suppose. But our front desk staff, it's a high turnover industry. And since COVID, everybody wants to make a lot of money and not want to do a lot of work for it.
Let's talk about that because there's a lot of people that are experiencing the same thing. And maybe before we get into that, you have five.
Talk about the locations.
Well, let's talk about those locations that you acquired like pre-COVID or during COVID, because you started 3 on your own and then you acquired 2 locations. So let's talk about some of the struggles that you had with those. They weren't underperforming locations. It wasn't necessarily a distressed sale, but you had some struggles with it, right?
We had some struggles for a couple things. One, I bought in the holidays of November of 2019. I bought into a market where I didn't know it at the time, but it was very heavily populated with Spanish-speaking staff. And I don't speak Spanish. So that was really, really hard. And a lot of managers, they don't speak Spanish. So that was a hard adjustment. They had been working in that spa with their owner for 6 years. So for allowing me to come in, I don't speak their language. I can do my very, very best to communicate with them using all the tools that we have available to us, but they didn't necessarily buy into me, right? I was coming in, I was changing policies. I was changing the linen provider. I wasn't going to be sending towels out anymore. They had limited use to CBD oil or, whatever changes I was making, they were not huge fans of. So I had a lot of work to do to try to build a rapport with them, or at least with the leaders that we had in place. So the managers that I bought the spas with did not last very long. So I had to utilize a lot of my staff from the Gainesville location, actually bring them down into the Naples location and put them up in hotels or Airbnbs or whatever to get them to support me to rehire staff in those locations. And then COVID happened.
COVID happen? So it went from bad to worse. What would you have done differently, knowing what you know now? They left, the challenges. Would you have implemented things differently, or did it work out? It eventually worked out. Everything worked out the way that it did. But would you have changed anything? Did you learn anything from that?
I think that I wouldn't have known, sure, because, you don't really get to go in and meet the staff before you buy, right? You kind of just have to take what you get. I wish I would have known that they were heavily populated with, not that it would have changed anything, but maybe I would have tried to find a Spanish-speaking assistant manager that I could have brought in, or, hire somebody temporarily to be down there that speaks Spanish. I don't know.
Did you go in as a customer to go and check it out as a customer?
No, I didn't. I probably should have done that. I would say it's much easier to build a spa personally for me. It's much easier to build a spa from scratch and do without the recurring revenue right away than it was to buy into an existing store that had different leadership. That's probably been the hardest piece.
Did it make you a better leader today going through all that?
I think so. Yeah. I'm definitely more patient.
All right. So it went from the managers that were there, the assistant managers were there, are no longer there, and you are bringing in your faithful staff, putting them up in hotels and Airbnbs to make it work, because that's what us entrepreneurs do. And then COVID happened. What's give us the details.
Yeah, no, that was honestly, it was really hard. I honestly couldn't believe that our government could shut us down. I heard all the things, I heard the news, and I'm like, there's no way this is going to happen. It was a very, very stressful time. In those 2 stores down there, because I hadn't really had an opportunity to develop a real rapport with them, because it had only been a couple of months, the staff was still getting to know me, and I was still getting to know the staff, and the managers that were in place there were, they weren't loyal to me either. Right.
And by the way, like people listening, if you're buying something, a business, a franchise from somebody else, most of the time those staff don't work out. Like it's, so I would go into it preparing to have new staff come in, from whether it's a loyalty thing or they're going to quit, they have better opportunity, or they just weren't as good as you expect. So, anytime you're acquiring another business, just be prepared for that to happen. I did a podcast a little while ago with an Anytime Fitness franchisee that they only buy performing locations. So that will be a good one to kind of listen to understand a little bit more about going into a place with really good staff and how to vet out that staff beforehand. But like what you experienced, could be expected. I think a lot of people should just kind of be prepared for that. So anyway, keep going.
So then COVID happened and the stores, were shut down. We're in Southwest Florida where the demographic is, the aging population is more, we have a lot more clients that are older. So they certainly were not coming in for services even for that period of time that we were open before the state of Florida, said we had to close. And so we had employees that wouldn't come to work. We had, our members were canceling left and right, putting them, either they were putting on freeze for 3 to 6 months, or they were outright canceling because they just didn't believe that this was ever going to go away. And so that was really hard. And then obviously it happened in all the spas. But I had more, at the time I only had 4 spas. So I only had, Fleming Island, Gainesville, Naples, and Estero. So we brought everybody, back. I, of course, filed for the PPP program during that time. And my 2 northern stores, I call them, were eligible for PPP. And so I was able to pay our employees an average of 91% of their salary during the time that we were closed. I took all of that money and reinvested it back in them. And then the southern stores, I didn't qualify for very much PPP, so I wasn't able to give them money because I'd only owned the businesses for 6 weeks in that year. And so I think that was really hard because it was the same business, and I couldn't support those spas the same way that I could support the spas up here. So, move forward. We came back really strong from COVID in all the locations. But especially our Gainesville store really bounced back really fast. People were ready to come back into the spa and get services after that very traumatic experience. So we're still growing and still moving in the right direction.
I was a franchisor during all of this because I think it's I always am interested to see how the franchisor responds to things like COVID or change or difficult situations. And I'm guessing they were pretty good. No, I don't think any franchisor probably did everything 100% the best because we were dealing with an unknown situation. But curious, like what did they do? How did they respond?
They responded with a lot of, they had all the information coming at them, and they're in Philadelphia, which was a very strict state that was still closed for basically a year and a half later, even after like Florida was open and we're kind of like done and moving on. But we were still having to implement all the things that, Hand and Stone was like, you need to keep your clients safe. You have to implement all these protocols. They did their very, very best. They provided us with all the information coming from the CDC, trying to keep our brand, I don't know. I don't know what word to use, but I just think they did their best with the information that they had. I think that a lot of it was because of where they were situated and the state that they were in, so they were following their state guidelines. And I think that a lot of it didn't apply in Florida specifically. So I think we had to follow all these rules. Masks and gloves and extra covers on our tables and no blankets in our treatment rooms and no fans and no steamers. And there was so many things that we had to follow that made running our businesses really hard because there was an additional cost.
Attention, franchisors and franchisees. There are two really important resources that I want to share with you that will help you avoid costly mistakes and increase your enterprise value. The first is our free Facebook group. It's a community that has over 4,000 franchisees and franchisors in it. When somebody asks a question, they get honest and authentic answers from multiple perspectives. You can join the group for free over at franchisesecrets.com/Facebook. The second resource I want to share with you is if you're a franchisee and you want to be around a community of successful Zs and other brands and in other industries, this is why I created the Franchisee Mastermind. If you want access to the best single and multi-unit owners to know what they're doing, or if you want to be around other multi-brand owners, then you'll want to check out my Franchisee Mastermind. The reason why people join is they want access to my Rolodex, my connections, to each other. They want a shortcut success, both short-term and long-term. Links will be in the show notes or at scalablefranchise.com. Let's talk a bit more about you and your team. How is it structured? Do you have like a district operational manager, or are you kind of in that role?
No, I have a great team of leaders. So up until like just this week, it was I had a regional manager that supported all 5 spas, along with a director of massage and a director of aesthetics. And then I have managers in each locations and assistant managers in each locations. And then obviously we have all the other stuff.
Let's talk about that regional management structure that that has been in place. What is like? How do you manage that regional manager, and have you overstepped boundaries with them that where your staff wants to go to you because they were used to going to you at certain times? Because I think this is an area that a lot of people want to have that regional manager, and you really need to have a few locations probably to be able to hire that regional manager. But talk about like that relationship with that regional manager and your management of that person.
That person has been with me for 6 years. She works out of her home body or her home office. Her home spa is Gainesville. And she's been an excellent part of our team. She proved herself and her concept and her ability to manage people inside of the Gainesville location. And so when we bought the South Florida stores, she stepped up to the challenge to support all of the stores. And so that's when she rolled into that role while still managing her home location with a lot of great support with her assistant manager and lead people inside of her own organization, that she participated with me. I mean, we had daily conversations. We made a plan. We would go down to the South Florida stores together. And I think she's a huge reason why we've been able to have the success that we've had. And as that relationship has developed, we've also had, we've created a director of massage position. So we try very hard, it's not perfect, to have the same policies and procedures in running in all the spas because they're trained by the same person, or at least that person is trained by our lead. So then they hopefully are implementing those things all the way down the line. And then same thing with our aesthetic director. So she really takes on the role of becoming besties with all of our SDs, right? That's what they're called. So she really treats them like they're her little babies, and she makes sure that they are trained and ready to go and signed up for all the classes. And I mean, there's so many things that she does that I don't partake in.
What is she really good at that you're not good at?
Wow, there's a lot of things. I think that I'm really good at making people feel really good and encouraging them and listening to them. All 3 of those leaders that I just mentioned are really good at implementing things into the spa and connecting with their employees. And they're able to do that because they're in the spa or in the business, and I'm not in the spa. So I can't have that relationship with their people.
Are you a micromanager by nature, or are you like a delegator by nature?
I am not a micromanager, and I am not a delegator. I empower them to make the best decision for each situation.
What's the difference between that and delegating? Because I like what you said, by the way. I like what you said, but I get just curious to kind of, because it was specific what you said there. So I'm gonna imagine there's some there's intentionality around you framing it that way, and I'm curious to know.
I think the words that you choose and the way you talk to your people play a huge role in how they perform for you. If you treat them like they're better than you, or you're better than them, or you know more than them, and you're not in their situation, then you aren't going to have a team of people that stay with you for very long. So I personally connect with them, emotionally, and I listen to them and I hear their ideas. I don't always give them what they want, but I certainly hear them, and I work really hard to implement the things that they think will go better. Or if somebody needs more money or wants more money, if I really feel like I can do that for them, then I certainly do.
Day to day, like what's a week in your life like, or a day in your life like? Because it sounds like you have a great team, great culture, great leaders. What's a day or a week in your life like?
Well, this week is very different this week because I am traveling and visiting all 5 spas this week. There's been a lot. So we started in South Florida on Sunday, and we visited the 2 stores there, both Monday and Tuesday. Today we're in Fleming Island. Tomorrow we'll be in Gainesville, and Friday we'll be in Tallahassee. That does not happen very often. I would say that happens once a quarter, but I do not visit all the stores usually in the same week. And I also just hired somebody new, and that's why I'm doing this. So I'm traveling with her to introduce her to all the teams. So she is going to have the title of HR Communications Director, because I need more support in just continuing the relationship with the teams, and because I have this other concept that I'm working on. So typically on a normal week, every other week I sit and I process payroll for the teams. So my managers prepare payroll for me by sending me all the payroll reports and all the notes and all the extras and the add-ons and the bonuses and the contests and all the things that we give to our employees every other week. So they prepare it for me. I process it over 2 or 3 days a week, every other week. Other than that, I host meetings with our team once a week on a Wednesday. I am available to answer any questions for them. I mean, I'm available for them. I don't sit and watch cameras. I don't sit and watch. Yeah, I'm just not going to do that. I'm busy in my day-to-day life, right? I mean, I do other things for sure, but as far as spa related, I spend a fair amount of time, managing and looking for just new employees. I look at the career plug site, and if I find somebody interesting, I recently joined the LinkedIn page. I never had a LinkedIn page forever because I didn't really want to be out there. But they said that I should be, so I did. And then I don't know, what do I do? I mean, I feel like I have a lot of conversations with the staff.
Do you have certain KPIs that you monitor? There are certain reports that you get. Is it daily? Is it weekly?
Yep, we get our Sunday reports. So we analyze our Sunday reports, sometime during the week, not always on Monday. So we go over our Sunday reports, sometimes on our Wednesday call, depending on what's going on. We put together challenges for our team so we can, we're really working really hard to get to a 20% conversion ratio across all 5 locations. And sometimes, we're at 5% for the week. So, what can we do? Like, you guys, we have 25 prospects coming in the door this week. We really need to at least convert 5. So what can we do to get to that number? So
how do you do that? Like, take me into that meeting. How do you get them motivated to go from 5 to 20? Is motivation the right word that you would use?
Yeah, we often do it with a challenge with money, or we do it with, you can go to, it may sound silly, but you can go to like the treasure box. If you get your 5 prospects, or you got 5 for 5 for the day, you can pick up a gift out of the treasure box. And
what's the treasure box? Tell me the treasure box.
That's so funny. The treasure box has a lot of anything and everything. It could have a $100 item from the retail shelf. It could have a candle. It could have their favorite skincare product that they want. It could have something. It could have a $25 Starbucks gift card or a $10 Starbucks gift card, or a gas card that's really popular right now. So they can pick something from the treasure box for meeting that goal for that day. I think if you give the teams that we currently have challenges that are too long, if they're beyond a week, they tend to lose interest. We did do a month-long contest for the month of April, where it was a contest. I think they earned a free spa day if they were for the massage therapist team, for the aesthetics team, and for the front desk team. So whoever sold the most enhancements during a given month, because it was 50% off for the month, they got a free spa day. So they get a massage, a facial. That's a great gift. So we reward them constantly, but it's you always have to be on your toes. You always have to be thinking about what's going to fill their bucket for the day, and it's hard.
What's the biggest surprise that you've had with the treasure box, and what maybe stuff that you thought would motivate them that doesn't, or that you didn't think would motivate them that it actually did motivate them?
I think you always have to keep putting new things in the basket. So, I think the thing that surprises me the most is that when we're talking about conversion, so just back to the front desk, when they're earning their base salary, let's call it $15 an hour, and they have the opportunity to earn $8 or $12 extra for every membership that they sell during that shift that they work, and they don't want to do that. I'm surprised by that. I'm surprised that they wouldn't want to take their salary of $15 an hour and make $20 by converting 5 new people in a given day when you have those opportunities to do so. I struggle with that every day, actually, because I feel like, gosh, that's real money that they're leaving on the table, and I don't know how to motivate them. So if somebody knows how to
let us know.
I would love to know, because we try everything. We try money, we try contests, we try, literally everything. And it's been an experience, and I've never seen it wasn't like that before COVID. And it's just not, I don't really think it's getting better.
Well, let's talk about that front staff, or the front desk staff, and the high turnover and whatnot. Is there, what do you do to keep them coming in, or finding new people? What are we all know the challenges.
The problem with always finding new people is then your managers get burnt out on constantly hiring, constantly training, onboarding these new people and making them be part of their culture. So sometimes you keep people because you can't find anybody, and sometimes you keep people that you shouldn't keep because it's just so darn hard to keep reinvent. You just keep cycling through these people, and I'm just not one to give up on somebody after 30 days if you're not converting. It's really hard to say you're not doing your job, but maybe I can find another job for you. I think working with the current age that's typical of our front desk, I think is the hardest. Well, not the hardest, but it is a hard component specifically to our 5 spas, I think.
What have you done? What kind of things have you discovered that have kind of helped you either manage them or learn about them and how to motivate them or how to keep them? Is there anything that you've lessons that you've learned that you would share?
I think working with the teams to try to get to know them obviously help, building a rapport with them very quickly, finding out what makes or what fills their bucket. And usually what fills their bucket is being able to sit at their computer desk, and many times, not really engage in the job. And I that's just where we are right now with our employees, or just the current hourly employee is really hard to motivate. I feel like we do everything, and we can't give them $25 an hour. Or if you did give them $25 an hour or $20 an hour, would you find a better employee? I don't know if that really makes sense to you. But I mean, you pay somebody 15, if you pay them 20, are you really going to get a better person? And so we all think that they're motivated by money, but they're not always motivated by money. They want, if I had a spot, I was open 9 to 3, Monday through Friday, I would have my desk filled all the time. But, I have a spa that's open from 8 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night, most days of the week. So, finding people that want to work and, want to try hard is really tough. I have a positive story though. I was in Estero, our spa in Estero last week, and our manager hired a new assistant manager, and she's a rock star. She's so exciting, and it was so refreshing to leave that spa yesterday knowing that we have this new light in the spa. I think it was really, really, really beautiful to see. She's excited. She gets it. I mean, I hope it will be a reflection in the spa very soon, because I think she's going to bring on a lot of really great employees that are like her.
So some people, they love working in their business so much, like managing the people, being in their business, and others want to manage the managers of the business, kind of like the E-Myth, Michael Gerber, the E-Myth, like working on the business, not in the business, or some combination of both. And some of these that want to really have that business provide for their lifestyle, and they want to go on to do other businesses, they kind of have a litmus test of, can I step away from this business for a while? And how long can I step away without, things breaking? What's your mindset around that? What have you tested out or done?
I've always been working on the business. I've never worked in the business from day one, because the businesses have always been too far away for me to work in them on a daily basis, because I have my family at home and I have my husband at home. I'm not going to come and be in the spa for more than a day or two at a time. And I think because of the relationship that I've created with the managers, or the managers have created with me, I think we've been successful to be able to do that. So I can work on the business and for the people, and I can work for the managers, and then they're empowered to build the business like it's their own. Does that make sense?
Yep. What's the longest that you've been able to step away from the business or tested stepping away from the business?
Always do payroll. So I've never really stepped away for longer than a week and a half, because payroll comes every 2 weeks. So as far as not being in the spa, I mean, I've gone 3 or 4 months without going into the spa.
So my question, I forgot to ask it earlier, why are you still doing payroll?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know.
I'm not the first one that's asked you that question, am I?
I do know the answer. And the reason that I want to do payroll, or I think I want to do payroll, is because I've analyzed in my head, is that that's my only connection to staff. It's my only connection to who's coming and going, is because I see on the payroll report, I see who I onboard in our payroll system, and I at least know that we hired somebody. And I think that's changing. I think we're going to kind of start to change that for myself. But that has been, I was in the spa yesterday and I called somebody by the wrong name and I felt horrible. I felt so horrible. I mean, they kind of look alike, but I felt so horrible. It's like I've worked for you for 3 years and you don't know my name. But,
no, I can see that.
So anyway,
How much do you love doing payroll?
I do not love doing payroll. But again, it's been my only connection to the people.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And there's no right or wrong answer. It's just a curiosity to kind of see that. And it'll be fun. It'll be fun to see where you are in a year, because it sounds like this is something that you are currently working on. And is there a better way to engage with your current employees outside of payroll? Is there something that you would enjoy that would accomplish the same thing without doing the thing that you don't enjoy at all? I don't know the answer to that, but I don't know the answer to a lot of things. But no, this is good.
I don't have the answer for you. I don't. I mean, I think that right now that's the only way that I know how to know who's being onboarded. We have a WhatsApp channel. We communicate through something called a WhatsApp. So I do see them come and go there. but that's so random. Not everybody participates on the WhatsApp and, just because they have a name and they say happy birthday to somebody. I don't know.
I think it's great that that's the reason you want to do payroll. I mean, that says a lot about you, your management style, how you care about people, and how you manage people and how you built the team that you have. So I think that is a fantastic answer to that question, because it lets us know, who are, me interviewing you and people listening, like who you are. And I think that gives a lot of insight into why you've had the success that you've had. So is there anything else that you'd like to say or leave the audience with? A lot of franchisees are listening to this, and, what advice would you give a franchisee, maybe a mom out there that is wondering if she should really get into business, or, even she might want to, but it's like, what advice would you have given to your younger self?
I think that it's important, if you want to not work in the business, if you want to work on the business, out of the business, not to micromanage your people, and trust that your manager will do right by you. I think that if you don't trust your manager, they know that. They know if you're looking over their shoulder and checking every penny and checking every line item. They know that. And so they're not going to be empowered to do their very, very best for you. So I believe in empowering your people to do what they know they can do, because maybe they can't open their own business, but they can feel really, really, really important in your.
Well said. It's obvious to me why you have the success that you have, and the future things that you're doing, you're going to be wildly successful as well. So thank you for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Franchise Secrets podcast. Links to everything can be found over at franchisesecrets.com. And if you want my help with anything from starting your own franchise to growing your current franchise business, please visit scalablefranchise.com.